ready to do it? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
dope. So I know you as ZeRo. Is it okay if I call you ZeRo?
You can call me ZeRo, Gonzalo, whatever works.
Um, I mean, I watched you. You were like the greatest. You were the greatest Smash player, in my opinion, of all time. I'm gonna turn off my. Here we go. You're the greatest Smash player of all time. I think that you probably had a a streak. What was your streak? It was the longest streak of all time, I would say, right?
Yeah, it was. Ended up being. I found out later it was a Guinness World Record for the longest video game win streak, or something along those lines. It was 56 in total.
Wow.
Yeah. What is it? It's just a vague concept, just
Mhm.
to bring out like what is it like to be the best at something. I think most people aren't the best in the world at like anything.
I think the way I explain it is that it's kind of like a journey. Like when you first set out to do something, you want to be the best. You want to maybe be better than your friends, or maybe better than your city, or you have some type of goal. And when you're kind of climbing up to that goal, you'll have many different points
Anna,
where you'll.
sorry, my wife is in the background.
Oh, no worries. You'll have many different points where you'll kind of struggle or hit some type of wall that prevents you from progressing further. But when you become the best, it feels like you essentially defeated every single wall, and it feels actually really weird because you no longer have a goal. The best way to explain it is kind of like me saying you had a goal, you accomplished the goal, and now you're holding the goal, but you no
Mm,
longer have any ambition to be in that position anymore. So actually becomes very challenging once you are in that scenario because you no longer have that desire. Now you can only just lose it. That's why many
Mm.
people that once they become the best of something, they no longer want to do it because they realize that it's only a downhill trend from this point on. It's either can I defend the title and when am I going to lose it? It becomes much more stressful than oh I hope I can get it one day. If that makes
hmm
sense.
Mm.
So the journey was a lot more exciting and fun for you to get to that place.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Did maintaining it stress you out at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that you think about all the time because people are kind of putting you on a pedestal where if you
Hmm.
lose at any point in time, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no oh, but I was tired. Oh, but I was this and that. It's just the
Yeah.
one time it happens that's the movie, right?
Hmm
And that pressure gets to you. It can make you play it better. It can make you play worse depending on what kind of person you are. For me, I
Mm.
think it brought out a more gritty version of myself, but for the average person, it would just feel, mind crushing at certain points in time because you don't have the ability to be weak. You have to be consistently strong no matter what to be able to hold on to that.
Mm.
Was your wife or your ex-wife? I'm not sure what your status is. What
Oh,
I
wife.
remember, she was so supportive, and she seemed so instrumental. I mean, so the viewers might not know this, but I followed you like religiously, and every time that you would win a tournament, it was like bam, she was on stage hugging you, kissing you. Was that helpful, or was it a distraction, or
For me, I think it's definitely a little bit of everything, right? Because the way I approach competition is that I struggle focusing on things. I have a very very severe ADHD, right? Now, I never did anything about it, but what it comes down to is that if I'm practicing or something, or I'm preparing for a tournament, or I'm at the event, I'm kind of locked in. You know what I mean? I'm only able to focus on one thing at a time, right? So this is why many times at tournaments I call them business trips because a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're going to Japan, going to this tournament. You're gonna have a lot of fun going to Japan." And in my head, I'm thinking, "No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm showing up, going to the airport, straight to the practice room, straight to the event. I'm out." There was no.
Mhm.
I didn't have the mental capacity to do all these different things because I knew
Mm.
once I broke focus, it was over, right? And
Mhm.
the issue was that you can't be that much of a robot with your partner around. You know what I mean? You have to be a little bit more of a human, right? And that to me
Mhm.
was actually very challenging because I remember when we first started dating, I told her, you can come to these events, but I will warn you, I'm a different person when I'm at these events, right? I'm not. It's not what you think, right? Because you know how it is in the beginning. When you tell your partner maybe, I'm gonna be off some other city for 4 days. don't come with me. It sounds a little suspicious. You know what I mean? So she wanted to come with me in the beginning. Kind of see what it was, because she wasn't really into the gaming space like that in the beginning, and she kind of learned about it later with me. And then as the years progressed, she didn't really want to go with me anymore because she kind of understood it. She was like, okay, when he means I'm gonna go there straight up, win the thing, come back ASAP, it's actually real, right? The focus is actually there, because I did no partying, I did no extra activities or anything like that, because I was actually unable to do it. Honestly, it was that hard.
Do you
So you
regret
just
not
enter like
partying or anything?
No.
Yeah.
I went to so many different places.
Yeah.
People will invite me, right? But I always said no, I can't. Because I mean, I tried it at a one event. Went to one party, okay? And I'm sitting there, and people are giving me drinks and all that, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna wake up at 8 in the morning, because a lot of these pools are at 8 a.m. You not just at 8 a.m. You are playing the tournament match at 8 in the morning, so you have to be up at 6, warm up, whatever. So I realized I made a colossal mistake, right? Fortunately, it was like day one or something like that, so I could kind of, because day one is usually the easiest of the competitive days. The last day is the hardest because you play against the best players, so you could get away with a little bit more. But I don't regret not doing any of that stuff, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like if you did take that route, you may not have been as influential and as powerful as you are in that community.
I think when you want to be the best in anything, I think you have to be able to make sacrifice. You have to be able to make sacrifice to practice, to have discipline, and all that. That's why a lot of people will ask me, "Oh, do you have to have some type of talent to be able to be the best in anything?" And the answer I always give is no, because it's not necessarily a talent thing. It's not like some people are just more talented and more prone to be the best. What it really is about is that they're just more willing to shave off the unnecessary things that they have in their life to be able to get to that goal. Because for example, if I said, well, if your goal was to build muscle, right, and then you hire a professional coach, you ate exactly what he said, never steer off the plan, right? Showed up to the gym every single day, regardless of how you felt. You're invariably going to make results because you have that, you're sticking to the plan no matter what. It's the same reason. Here it was like, if you're practicing 8 hours a day, you have a guy reviewing your gameplay, you look at what you're doing, you're going to tournaments, you're doing this, you're going to get better. Even if you're not trying, like, to not get better, if you follow those steps specifically, you are going to get better naturally. Does that make sense? So that's why I don't think it's about talent. I just, many times when I reviewed what people were doing to get better, I always criticized the way they went about it. I was like, well, you say you practice, but then I'm watching you practice here. You're on your phone, you're not paying attention. You're playing this guy, but you don't have an objective. What's the point of the session? What are you trying to accomplish here? And they always were like, oh, I don't know, I'm just playing, and I'm like, well, that's what you're gonna get, so.
What role do you think mental has in like top tier gameplay?
I don't have the experience to maybe say from a sports experience, because I've never done sports at a high level. I've done some type of sports, but not at a high level. But for a video game perspective, I think it's the majority of the battle, because essentially you're fighting a virtual warfare against your opponent, right? So regardless of anything, there's less physical limitations to it. It's just more so mentally, can you execute and all that. And personally, for a competitive standpoint, I think that mental is probably 3/4 of actually winning the match, because if for example, if I were to tell you how much better were you, for example, because you played in bracket, you played against opponents, how much better were you than your opponent to win? If you have to quantify it in percentage, sometimes you may have won a set and you were perhaps 0.5% better than the other guy, 1% better than the other guy. Not that significantly better, but just a little bit better. So what it came down to was like little trickery, little tomfoolery, right? You tricked him this one time, you got the best of him, he got pissed off here, you pushed that button, this and that, and then kind of that lets you get ahead, and then it looks worse and worse and worse as the match goes on, right? There's been many sets where I played some of the best players in the world, and we're kind of toe to toe. They may even be playing better than me, but they made one mistake. I pushed it really hard, and I know they don't like making that mistake just from experience. And then they fell apart because they started being self-conscious about it. They started playing worse. They got pissed off. Maybe I did something in game that pissed them off. And then now they're off their focus, and suddenly it's over. Lost 3-0. And if they had been more disciplined from the beginning, they would have just won. That's why I
Mm,
think it's super important that regardless of what happens, you kind of just stay zoned. I mean,
mhm,
when you saw me compete in tournament, you saw that mostly I had no reactions.
mm,
I was just kind of just going through the motions, if that makes sense.
mm. Did you ever feel like alien from your feelings or from happiness or from meaning?
I think so. I mean, I guess like because the way I explain it is that you kind of have to be a little bit of a cyber at times. You have to be able to control your emotions and your focus enough where you kind of detach yourself, but not enough. Does that make sense? Because being human is like being vulnerable and being weak, and
Mhm,
kind of being able to kind of go through things a different way. But when you kind of
mhm,
shave off all the unnecessary and become a warrior, essentially,
mhm,
you end up looking less human as a result.
mhm.
That's why when you go and see some of these, UFC fighters, I mean, they look demonic before they step on stage,
Mm.
because
Mm,
they're getting into the mindset of I am going to kill this guy on the cage. So they have to think about it like that. They have to, they can't just go out into the cage and be making jokes up to the moment. Some of them may play that way, but in their head they're thinking,
yeah.
you know, I have to kill this guy before he kills me. So
I
What
mean,
were
but then you saw that Wonder Boy fight last night, right? They were hugging each other. They were, I fucking love you, man. Like, and it was like the most beautiful
mm.
fight of the year, or one of them. I mean, until the
yeah,
guy got like fucking crippled. Did you? I don't know if you watched it. It was great. Yeah,
no,
Wonder
I don't, I
Boy
don't,
versus Kevin Holland.
I don't keep up that much. But now that you throw it out, I mean, I may have to watch it just to see what the heck was going on. But
Yeah, yeah,
one of my favorite fighters that I saw some of his fights was probably Khabib.
yeah.
Um,
That's a
just
great example of what you were talking about. He goes to war. He goes, "I'm going to kill this guy."
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy played. He didn't really say anything before the matches. He would just show up and do his job. And I feel like I find some of the other guys kind of get to that mindset a bit more. But that's like the whole business aspect of fighting. Some of them talk more trash. Others show up. They play a persona, right?
Yeah.
I think that guy was not playing a persona. I think he was just dead ass, just like that.
Mhm. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting to me to think back on the way that you played Smash, and it was so creative. Like, you have this disciplined, you're talking about robotic, like fucking just erase emotions. But when I watched you play, it was like you were 10 levels ahead of everybody else, and so you were able to just like control the opponent in a way that was like, it felt like art to me. Did you ever feel like you were creating art, or was it just like, I'm going to fucking execute and destroy?
For me, I don't. It's funny because growing up in school, right, I had negative skills in art. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
whenever the teachers will make you make craft skills or make you build something when you're a little kid, right, or draw something, I had negative skills. Okay, it got to the point
Very
where
good.
if you looked at all my grades, right, I always had some zeros, some negatives, right, because I quit many of those classes. I would just tell the teacher, "I'll just take the L. I don't want to do this. I'll just take the L." And they will get very upset with me for not trying it because I was like, this is not me, right? So for
Yeah.
me, I never saw myself as an artist per se. But for me, the way I thought about it in my head, right, was that I'm just going to um I'm going to try to analyze the match very close to a chess match. I don't play chess, right?
Mm.
But the way chess primarily works, right, is you make a move, they make a move, you make a move, they make a move, right? And
Hmm.
the way Smash works is roughly the same way. People can make many moves at once, right? But essentially, you are going to be making moves. They're going to be making moves. Now, here's the cool part: is that regardless of how good of a player you are playing, their option is not impossible to defeat at any point in time. And what I mean with that is that if you know that a specific option is coming and you expect it and you're already at the hand to punish it, then you can punish it. So even if it's not the wrong option, it's not a mistake per se. It's not like they made a misclick or did a move poorly. You were just expecting it. That's the mistake. You're right. If you are
Hmm.
able to do that, then you're able to punish them. So what I will primarily focus on is that I will play the game in a way where I would make it so my options were as difficult to guess as possible, and even if they knew they were coming, I made sure that it was as difficult as possible for them to punish them. And then I try to tilt it the other way for me, where what they
Mm.
were doing I try to make it as easy as possible for me to guess and as easy as possible for me to punish. And then once
Wow.
I got one opening, I try to take it as far as possible. I try to not get greedy. So if I was playing a really good player and I hit him 2-3 times, some people get excited. They'll hit him 2-3 times, try to go for a 4 or 5. But in my head, I'm like, no, back off, back up. Remain stage control. Let him breathe a little bit, see what he does. And people start to panic because you give them more space. And that's kind of how I play the game. I would just, do my little thing, go back, let them play a little bit, they make more mistakes, get a lead, then they go crazy, then I get a bigger lead, and it's over. Because I was always very strong with leads in general. So that's how I thought
Yeah.
about it in my head, at least.
You must be a great boxer then.
Funny you say that, because
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to break into the space of YouTube boxing right now.
Okay.
So I have been boxing for 4 to 5 months, like 5 to 6 times a week.
Yeah.
So that's the next step. I'm trying to get into that physical realm of sports.
I mean, you have the mental and the strategy aspect in your head already from all the years of Smash. To apply that to boxing, how has that been, that transition?
Well, it definitely helps. My trainer, he's one of those old school, very military type of he's been training people for over 40 years, right? The guy's almost pushing 70s, right? And the guy doesn't take many people to train. He drops clients and whatnot. And what he wants to see in clients is that he wants to see a person that has the right mindset for the thing, right? Because it's very different if you come up and say, well, I want to get fit. That's one thing. But when you tell the guy, I want to fight, but not just fight, I want to win, that's a different realm of seriousness that you have to apply to the craft. And it's brutal. I mean, I will tell you, for example, some of the days that I do the preparation to get better, get the conditioning, get better at the sport. You wake up, you feel like shit. You have to run 3, 4, 5 miles. You go for a run. Your knees are cracking. You have to just finish anyway. You go back, go for a gym session, go back, eat something, go back again. Now you're boxing. Now you have to do that for 2 hours. Your left hand hurts. The guy's yelling at you. You have to just do it. And a lot of that is mental grit. It's not, the guy next to you who's doing the same thing. He's in physical shape, but he's falling apart maybe 30 minutes before you are. Not because you're more physically fit than him, but because you have that mental grit to just push through the pain, push through the exhaustion, right? And it's funny because when we're in the middle of these sessions, right, he'll tell me, out of all the people I train, you just have this look that you want to kill the other guy. Like it just looks, you look with this intensity that I don't see, or I have almost never seen, because not many people will step on with that much intensity. Some people will want to win, but how bad do you want to win? So that's what it comes down to.
Where do you think that comes from? That just, I fucking have to be the best, because that you are so uncompromising in it. It's just, this is what it is. No matter what, I'm gonna fucking win. Where does that come from?
Well, I didn't really have a male role model growing up, right? Because my dad was absent. My mom, obviously, she's not a man, right? She tried her best, but a lot of the things that I think determine my personality later on are masculine traits, like ambition, being extremely intense about competition, and those things are things that can be trained. Or maybe you can learn from a role model. But what I think it was personally, right, it's not somebody specifically telling me what to do. It's just that I come from a rough environment. I didn't really have a lot growing up. Things were
Can you tell us
challenging.
more about that?
Yeah. So I mean, I come from Chile. Chile's a third world country, roughly, right? Especially back in the day. I think it's less third world country. But when I was growing up, it was coming from a dictatorship, right? Because at some point in Chile there was a dictatorship period, and that it's the real one where if you went and told your neighbor something, right, and the neighbor could tip you off, and then the military will come to your house and take you. That there's no trial, they just take you. So it was that intense, right?
Did
My
you see
parents
that
grew up-
happen to your neighbors?
I didn't see it happen. I didn't live
Okay.
through it, but I was born shortly thereafter, the period
Right.
ended. Like, I feel like when people were kind of picking up the pieces and growing up and all that. So a lot of people were financially struggling. A lot of people lost their jobs. People were, in general, it was a very struggle land, essentially, right? People were kind of fending up for themselves, fighting for what they could get, fighting for breadcrumbs and all that. Nowadays, I think the economy's thriving more and people have more opportunities, but back then it just wasn't like that. growing up, for me, my dad wasn't really a part of my family life very much. My mom was kind of split up from the family, so a lot of the time it was just me, my mom, my sister. My sister, much older, ended up traveling, going somewhere. So a lot of the time it was just me and my mom. My mom has a very lax personality in general. She's the type of person to say, "Well, I'll support you whatever you do. You can do this, you can do that." But she's not very intense. She doesn't have intensity. She's not the type of, "Well, I'm gonna do this, and if you quit halfway through, she's not gonna be upset at you. She's gonna say, oh, well, maybe it's not meant for you. Everything's fine and all that." But there was a point in the movie, right, where maybe I'm 9 or 10 or something, and I was looking at these other kids from other schools, because when at least the way it was in Chile, all of the schools will be one way of the town, or one side of the town, and then the people were living on the other side of the town, so you would just walk, because people didn't really drive much there. You would just walk. So invariably, you will walk with the kids from other schools. Obviously, there were the poverty schools, the mid class schools, and then the rich schools, right? And you will see the rich kids, how they dress, how they act, how they just. In my head, I was thinking, fuck that. I was 10, and I was just thinking, oh, fuck that. It made me angry. It made me upset. No one told me to be upset, but a part of me made me angry. And I was like, how do I get ahead in life? So I started thinking, even at a very young age, how do I get ahead of people, right? So
Yeah.
invariably, just because I never really wanted to be the best in video games, let alone Smash, but the way it kind of came to be is that my friends played the game, and then I will play the game with them. But I hated losing in general. I despised it. It made me angry. But it made me angry to a different way. For example, if I ask you, well, if you play a game of tennis, whatever, and you lose to the other guy, you'll probably be upset for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. But then you'll get over it. It's not that important, right? For me, it was not like that. I will lose to them friendly at my house, and then I will go to sleep that night, and I will think about it. I will be in school the next day, and I will think about it. I will go to sleep the next day, and I will think about it. So clearly, there was a level of obsession that was not normal, even at a young age, right? And that kind of just took it to a further step, right? So then, with that ambition, with that everything, going along, when I started doing things competitively, immediately I just wanted to be the best. It wasn't because in my head I'm thinking, well, how do I get ahead? How do I get recognition from this? How do I make it a career? You have to be the best. There's no question about it. Winning this little tournament is not enough. I have to win this tournament, get better, go here, do this, do that. And then I just kind of went with that crazy mindset. Now that I think about it, because I'm basically retroactively going back and thinking, how did I act and think when I was 13, 14, and now I'm 27, right? So now I'm thinking, man, I was kind of crazy.
I'm almost curious.
It's not normal.
How does that competitive nature, has that ever hurt any relationships with friends growing up, partners in life? Because when you get into that competitive mindset, you could become almost a different person in a way. Did you feel
Oh
that
yeah,
at all?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I think it was challenging because I was absolutely an asshole at many points in time when I was 16, 14, because I just cared about, I didn't care about making friends. I didn't care about any of the side stuff. I just wanted to show up, win the tournament, come back. I didn't care about any of the other stuff. Everyone else wanted to have fun with it, but I didn't. I just wanted to win. And a lot of people didn't like that because they either saw it as a threat. It was weird. It just wasn't the vibe, right? That's why I think I struggled to make many friends along the time. When I got older, I was able to kind of understand, well, this is the space where I have to turn on the switch. This is the space where I have to turn off the switch. And as you get older, you kind of understand that. But for me, it was challenging because I didn't have a mentor telling me at any point in time, hey, man, you should maybe think about this. You should maybe think about that. So you make mistakes along the way. But, to answer your question, yeah, I mean, there were many times where growing up, friends were like, hey, man, you get a little too intense with this stuff. I'm not a fan of that. You need to, relax a little bit. It's just a game. And I hated that. It bothered me so much. And I was like, well, to you, it's just a game. But to me, it's not. I don't tell you, that whatever you do is just a game. But you tell it to me. So that's kind of where I clashed with people. I remember when I had a girlfriend in high school. I had a girlfriend in high school. This is a good example. This is a good example of how crazy I was, right? So I had a girlfriend in high school. Okay, first girlfriend in high school, and whatever, things are happening, things are going well, whatever. There's a point in the movie where she kind of just goes, hey, so what are you doing this weekend? And I'm like, I'm going to a tournament. Okay, can I come along? No. Why? And I'm like, what, 16, right? And she's like, why? And I'm like, because I actually gave her a good answer. I don't have money for two people, so I only have money for me, so it's not gonna work. That's number one. Number two, I just want to go there and win, So I don't think it's gonna be a very fun trip for you because you're gonna realize that it's not. I'm not going there to have fun. I'm gonna go there strictly, take a bus early, whatever, make it work, stay, crash at someone's couch. I'm not. It's not a glamorous trip, by all means. And she couldn't really wrap her head around it. Finally, she says, "Okay, cool, but I don't want you to go." And I was like, "Why?" She was like, "Well, because you're my boyfriend, whatever, whatever. I want to spend time with you. This is more important. This and that, this and that." And I told her right there, I'm done. No, you know. I was like, no, I'm not picking. I'm not picking. This is not a decision. If you go against the grain here, it's over. So I broke up with her right there on the spot. And this is like my first relationship, right? So that's kind of how intense I was. Where many of my friends were like, why'd you break up with her? She was so pretty. This and that, this and that. And I was like, dude, you don't understand. I have a mission. You don't understand. This side stuff doesn't matter. I'm on a mission, and they never understood. And then later on, now when they saw what I was doing when I was at my peak, right? They were like, okay, now maybe I should have played more games. Maybe I should have listened to you. What, but I don't think it's something you can just teach. I think it was just obsessive to a weird degree, right?
Mm.
It's definitely different. I think that what interests me too is the fact that people fucking hated you, and in the same
Mm.
way that they hated the guy who was crushing it in Smash 4, and they wanted you to lose. And I was watching it going like, we are watching something that has never been done before. How fucking long can this guy keep this up? Like, um, and you were like the villain in a way, and I just
Mhm.
I didn't really get it personally. To me, I was like, holy shit, this is wild, you know.
Well, I think something interesting to think about is that you have always given me the impression of a person who's secure within themselves, right? Emotionally and mentally, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's just the impression I have, right? And when you have that capability of not feeling threatened by what other people are doing or accomplishing, you're able to kind of look at things more objectively. The reason is that the gaming community at large is just mostly teenagers, mostly people that are, because you know how teenagers are. You're struggling to find your self identity. You struggle to understand what part should you be in the world, where you belong, right? So when you
Hmm.
see somebody in the space that you want to be a part of have so much success, it feels threatening because you feel like you want to be that person, you want to be accomplishing that, and it feels like it's being taken away from you, right?
Hmm.
So that's a very teenage mindset, because whenever I've spoken with older people, right, who have gone through more life, they always feel very similar to the way you explain. But the younger people I've talked to, about the streak, or they talk about me, it's they make it sound completely different. And I also think that it's because invariably, I mean, throughout history, people just want the underdog to win. It's just a natural human reaction. I mean, people want Mayweather to lose when he had the whole thing going on.
Yeah.
People wanted people, even people that love for soccer, right? People wanted Ronaldo to lose. If you were not a Ronaldo fan, you wanted him to lose, it's all the same concept. People wanted to what's the Patriots to lose, Tom Brady to lose when he was, people were really talking about him, kind of going hard in the wall. Same old, same old. So I don't think it's anything personal. I think the
Hmm.
mistake I did personally is that I took it personal. I thought I was doing something wrong personally. Now that I'm older, I realize that no, I was doing it right. It's just that it's just I kind of encountered this issue later in life where I wasn't prepared to deal with it. But now that I'm older, I kind of see it. Just the way things are.
Do you remember the transition point when you realized, okay, yes, I'm a gamer, but now I'm also an influencer? There's like people that are watching everything that I do, and they're following me. And do you remember that transition point when you realize that, oh, this is not exactly what I expected? Because no one could really expect to get that leap with their career.
Yeah, I mean, the way I explain it is that when I wanted to be the best in Smash, I wanted to be the best in Smash in terms of skill. Nowadays, kids want to be influencers. They want to have money. They want to be
Mm-hmm.
famous. They want to put on their Instagram bio that they're this and that and have these many followers and all that. I mean, if you go and interact with young 20 somethings, the first thing they tell you about is how many TikTok followers they have. So clearly people are focused on the fame aspect of it all. But in my day, and I know it makes me sound soft when I say that, but in my day, I just wanted to be the best at the damn video game, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't care about being famous. I mean, back when I played like that and I started getting good and all that, people didn't have Twitter accounts, Instagram. Who cares? You go to tournaments. Who cares, right? I never posted on Instagram. I had a Twitter account with 200 followers, right? And then suddenly, when I started winning, and these things started going mainstream, look at my phone and I'm like, oh, I have 80,000 followers. I'm like, okay, I guess. And then I started realizing how dangerous it was, where you will say one thing,
Mm-hmm.
taken out of context, this and that. I love pancakes, so you hate waffles. I love cats, so you hate dogs.
Yeah.
This and that, and you start realizing how dangerous it is. And that's, I think, one of the main struggles I had in my career is that I never wanted to be famous. I never wanted to actually have a megaphone whenever I spoke. I hated that, actually. I enjoyed the competitive aspect of it. I enjoyed winning. I enjoyed competing. But all of that side stuff that came along with it, it took me many, many, many years after I retired to finally be able to understand what the heck I was doing. So I did way too many mistakes because I had no idea what it was. I never wanted it. I never wanted to deal with it in the first place. And also, it's not like you naturally learn how to deal with that, right? Um, maybe you have more experience, Marston, with that, right? Dealing with the ability to have a lot of influence, from your background and all that, right? Just from saying one or two small things, right? That can be taken out of context. But I never had
Yeah.
that. So for me, I was like, what is this, right? I remember people would tell me in private, I'd be like, man, why'd you say that on Twitter? I mean, what'd I say? They're like, well, you can't, you can't say that. And I'm like, what do you mean, bro? And I started
Yeah.
realizing, the way people talk in person is one way, and the way people talk online is another thing. I was like, oh, I remember when I realized I was, because for me, I would just
Yeah.
talk the same way, talk in person, talk on the internet, and you can't do that. You can't do that. It's you ever go to a gym or somewhere, right? And you hear the guys talk in the locker room, right? You'll hear the craziest things. I've heard guys say misogynistic things, crazy things that they will get canceled in 2 seconds if they said it online. But then you see their persons online, they're just like way different, right? So I started
Mm.
thinking, oh, okay, so that's the way it is. So that's the way the new world is. You
Mm.
pretend online, and then you
Yeah.
you are yourself. Okay, I
Yeah.
understand that. So that
You're
it,
able
it
to
took a while.
manicure your personality
Yes,
online and how people perceive you, because before you post, you have as much time as you want to decide how you're going to manicure it and how people are going to perceive it. So, like, there's so much room for you to create a fake personality.
yeah. For example, do you like oranges?
I do. Yes.
I do. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So if we were in person, that's the end of the conversation, right? You like oranges? Yeah, I do. Right? Online, you will have to say, well, I like oranges, but I've also tried all the other type of fruits and I really enjoy them, but bananas are also really good. And I'm happy you like bananas, but I'm more of an orange guy. No offense. You see how you have to kind of like talk, kind of
Because you
prepare
only have
all
one
the
chance
angles.
to say it. That's it. Just
Yeah.
a tweet. And then
Yeah,
people,
but
you
Yeah.
can interpret it however you want. So that's
people don't
scary.
communicate that way. But people don't communicate that way,
No,
right?
no.
It's something that's being invented nowadays. Because if you go and if you go and read all history books and you see how people wrote autobiographies or they talked in the
Mm-hmm.
1900s, it's madness. I mean, if you compare it to the way people have to communicate now, it's madness. There are so many things they say that you're like, oh wow, they can just talk like that or talk openly about this and all that. So just the way
What
the
was
world
the
is.
most difficult lesson you had to learn with the whole social media presence experience? Being lunged into that without any training, without any experience prior. I'm sure there had to have been something catastrophic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I feel too. Is like I was dating a woman when I was 20 years old, and I was in an emotionally and physically abusive relationship, and it went both ways. I was pretty fucked up back then,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and I had my 15 minutes of fame that I didn't want, and because I got like a spousal abuse thing, and um I had a support. Like I went to therapy. I had my mom right there. Like I turned off social media completely, and honestly it helped me be such a better person. And that's how do you frame your I would call it trauma from leaving the Smash community. Do you have people who are like your wife? Was she like, I'm fucking here, bro? Like, I mean, I don't know, man. It makes me emotional because yeah, I'm sorry you went through that.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, right? Um, I think I learned the hard way that what makes a man truly good, right? And when I mean good is complete, you have to go through some hard shit. I mean, it's just the way it is. And
Yeah.
the more a person that I see whenever I see somebody in person that impresses me, it's always these old guys that are in their 50s and their 60s. And actually, one of the people I respect the most in my life right now is actually
Yeah.
my boxing coach, right? He's not
Mm.
necessarily the guy that you go on Instagram and he has 3 million followers or something, like, but the guy is what I define as the man. But why is he the man, right? First of all, everybody who I have ever interacted who knows this man, right? His family, his kids, the neighbors, random people at the gym. Everybody has respectable things to say about him, right?
Mm.
Not only that, but he's able to elevate everybody around him. Every single person who's come in contact with this man has elevated their life in some capacity or not, right? The guy focuses on the things that matter. He focuses on family, focuses on providing for his family, focuses on teaching people, learning new things, humble, doesn't take shit from anyone. He carries himself with respect at all points of life, right? While also being just a very, just honestly very cool person in my opinion, right? But none of
Hmm.
that had to do with his following or something like that. Because when you interact with people these days, they care mostly about being famous. They don't care about the quality of person that you are behind.
Right.
So I think that and when I ask him, his background and all that, the guy has gone through the ringer. He's gone through because he used to be a police officer in New York City, and he went through the Twin Towers. So you can understand, he's seen some shit. Just to
Yeah.
put it easy, he's seen a lot of shit, and that's what kind of shaped him up to be the guy. So I think that's what I really hate about answering your question is that
Mm-hmm.
whenever you make a mistake in the online presence, is that nowhere in history have you been able to make a mistake and it's being held over your head. Because back in the day, in the 1600s, whatever, if you were John the mechanic, okay, or John the wood carpenter, okay, and you fucked the whole town, you just left town. You left
Yeah.
town, and it was the end of the movie, right? No one cared. You left town. You made a new identity, right? You can start over. You learn, never again. Life resets. Now you can't do that. You can't do that. You messed up online. Oh, but you're this guy. Oh, but you know what? I went online and I googled your name and
Mm-hmm.
all. Man, what is this thing from 10 years ago? Are you still doing this and all that? So we live in a point in society where you could have made one mistake 10 years ago,
Yep.
5 years ago, and people will still hold you to the same standard, even though you could be completely different person. So
Mm-hmm.
that happens to me all the time. Where I have some detractors, kind of tell me, "Oh man, what happened here? What happened there?" And I'll say, "Man, you're talking about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
For a 30-year-old person, you're talking about a third of my life going back. Don't you think something's happened between that point and this point? Hopefully, right? Hopefully, there's been something in the middle here, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I truly hate is that you're not given the chance to show something better. The mistakes kind of just are put on the front line, and the internet is not very gracious because it's not like you Google yourself and you go, oh man, well, this happened 20 years ago. Well, you know what, he's done this. No, it's first page, first result, the
Yeah.
first thing. So, and people make their impressions very fast, whether we like to admit it or not. First impressions are everything. Everyone says don't judge a book by its cover, but that's
So,
that's
so can you? I'm not in the loop. Can you explain in your words, because I want to hear it directly from you, what happened when this whole debacle happened?
you're talking about the 2014 event.
I'm not sure. Marston, you mentioned that he got pushed out of the Smash community. I wasn't sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't-
2014 event, I think is what it would be. Yeah.
Okay, because I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
follow the Smash world, to be
Mhm.
honest, and I'm fascinated by these subcultures and the
Yeah.
idea that someone could be pushed out and you know thrown to the trash. I think is wild, and I'm just fascinated to hear what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'll explain it as simple as I can, right? So, so,
Mm-hmm.
so, so the gist of the matter is that I was talking to a fan that was underage while I was 19, right? That's the main concept, right? However, what a lot of people miss is that the age of consent in my country is significantly lower than America, because Americans like to base everything on American law, but they don't realize that many parts of America don't function the same. What can work in Indiana doesn't work in New York, doesn't work in California, doesn't work in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the rules of the game change everywhere, right? And my coach, who was a police officer, talks about it all the time. You can go to this state, and this guy in high school is going to jail. He
Mm-hmm.
talked to this one girl, two grades younger, and now he's going to jail. On this other state, oh, the guy, nothing happens. Absolutely zero. There's zero repercussions, right? In my
Yeah.
country, the rules were completely different. When I was growing up, you have guys in the last year of high school, so they're seniors, right? They're 18, right? They
Mm-hmm.
were dating 13-year-olds openly. No one cared. The parents are there. They'd be kissing each other at a teacher's gathering, at the parties. No one cares. No, the teachers knew. Everyone knew. No one said one thing. The parents, no one cares, right? You have your mom and your dad will have an age gap of 15 years, 20 years. No one said a thing. No one will start asking questions like, okay, so your mom got together with your dad, yeah, when she was 12, right? And your dad's 20, right? And they'd be married for 40 years.
Right.
No one asks questions. You grew up with that culture, and that happens a lot in South America. That kind of age gaps and things like that happen all the time. So culturally speaking, I wasn't ready to understand. Oh, if I go to this other part of the world, the rules of the game are this absurdly different. I assumed the world was going to work, maybe close enough to where I live. Which, when you kind of realize now with current thing now, you're like, man, what a fucking idiot, right?
It's
What
a
would you ever
different
think about?
Smash game in
Yeah,
Chile, or we're in a different state. It's a different game with different rules, and
yeah.
everybody on the internet wants to act like there's only one rule to it. And if you fuck up that one rule, then you're fucking bring out the pitchforks and bring out the torches and chase the monster out of society. And it's does a lot of damage. And I'm glad that you have a kind of head where it's like, this is nonsense. Like, you're already above the rules that they're thinking, the rules that they live by. You're already thinking like one level ahead.
The way I see it is that for me, intent is very important, right? I have peace within my heart because I know that when I was 19, I didn't really have any crazy intentions. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really know what the age of the other individual was. Ended up, things ended up, kind of developing that way, and I'm like, okay, well, shit. And I didn't know. This is Keep in mind, this is 2014. This is before Smashers had Twitter accounts. This is before people were going on Twitch to make a living. This is before we even heard about streamers making money, and no one cared about streaming. I mean, you have maybe these guys playing Mario 64 on Twitch, and oh, cool, look at this guy going fast, and that was it. No one thought about it further. So when I explained the culture that way, they're like, oh wow, it really was a different world. I'm like, yeah, man, you were in middle school or worse or even younger when that happened. We were trying to figure out how to make this a living. It was just completely different, right? So obviously now that I'm 27, right? I can look back and say, okay, well, I obviously just didn't know shit. I wasn't ready for how quickly the world changed year by year. I wasn't wise enough to understand that the way my country works and the way another country works could be so drastically completely different worlds where you have to really watch yourself. I mean, when people in my country, right, a lot of my friends, I mean, they all found out about it. They all read it on the newspapers. It was everywhere, right? None of them cut me off. None of them are like, oh man, this and that. They were like, they the biggest answer I got from people within my country, right, from people that talk to me and whatnot, was why they care. This is nothing. Like what my mom, my dad. Same examples I give you, right?
Yeah.
So the differences that you get is based on where people come from. For example, when I talk to my friends in Japan, same answer. This is the exact same answer for people in Chile. Talk to some of my friends in Europe, same answer, right? So where am I having this issue with some Americans, right?
Yeah.
And also the way I see it is that for me, I think track record is very important. Nothing like that event has happened since. So because you can say, for example, okay, well, this individual did this wrong thing 10 years ago. Okay, did it ever happen again? Yeah, it happened 8 years ago. I did 6 years ago. I did 4 years
Yeah.
ago. It's kind of like a serial killer. They can't help themselves, right? They'll kill one guy and then they kill another and then they kill another until they get caught. That's why they're so dangerous, because until you catch this motherfucker, he will keep going. He will keep going, right? But
Yeah.
that's why I have peace in my heart, because to me it's like, well, that wasn't the case. It was truly a genuine lack of knowledge, truly. That once life was experienced further, I realized, okay, this is how things are, whatever. And now life is different. I mean, I'm almost 30 at this point, so I mean, I'm gonna, I'm looking at having kids and all that. So it's a different dimension. We're talking about a guy that just exited high school. I mean,
Yeah.
My biggest concern at that point in time was, being able to have $50 to pay the entry fee at the tournament. That was my biggest stressor. That was the biggest stress point I had at the time. So
So what is it like to be ZeRo now, Gonzalo now? It sounds like you've become more human. You're thinking about family. The mentor you respect is a pillar in the community. What does it look like to be the human feeling Gonzalo? What's that life?
well, for me, it's different because I no longer have that specific level of fame that I did with the specific community, right? But to
Mm-hmm.
me, it's fine because at the end of the day, I never truly enjoyed a lot of it. I think I enjoyed parts of it at the end. But being a YouTuber is fun and all that, but I can still do that. I still make videos, but it for me, it's like it's one of those things where I kind of enjoy that some parts of it are gone, maybe miss some other parts. So it's not like 100% like oh bad and good. It's like kind of like a little bit of a in between, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I say this all the time. I've never had a negative interaction with anybody. For example, today I went to the gym with the boxing coach, right? And we were just doing a weightlifting session, right, at a public gym, right? I have a random guy come up. Oh, are you ZeRo? Yeah. Okay, cool. Tells me, talks to me, 10 minutes, asks me all these questions and all that. Completely positive experience, you know. And I'm sure the guy has seen it all,
Yeah.
and that's not the first time it happens. Maybe you go get Subway, maybe the person giving me the Subway knows it. You know what I mean? I
Can I
never had a
say
negative.
can I say one thing? That's how I view you, is that you were the fucking goat. And uh yeah, that's it. Like that's it. You were the goat and you did shit that I was like, astonished by, and you had an incredible career. Like that's anyways, same feeling.
The way I see it is that I never had a negative interaction in person, and maybe there's some people that know me in person that man fuck that guy, I'm like okay cool that's fine, but I've never had that, but maybe it's happened because you never know, right? You never know if somebody wanted to talk to you in person but they just they didn't come up, right?
Mhm.
But it's never happened. It's never happened so far.
Good.
But we go back to the example of it's does the punishment fit the deed, right? So what I
Yeah.
mean with this is that for example, if where do you truly intend to cause damage with this one action that you did? Yes or no? Big question, right? Because if you truly intended to do some big bad shit, right? Well, okay, then it's different, right?
Mhm.
Past that, okay, do you learn anything from it? Yes or no? Another good one, right? Finally, we talk about how if you want to look at something sad, actually, you want to look at the statistics of men that come out of jail after they have they fuck up in their teenage years. Maybe they sold drugs or killed somebody in a gang related issue or something like that, and they come out of jail. Their lives are over. It doesn't matter. They can go and do their time 20, 30 years. They come out 30-year-old man, 40-year-old man with a record, a big record, right? Not a little record. They were not caught smoking weed. They did some shit, right? Their lives are over. It doesn't matter if for 30 years in jail they became a Christian and did that and completely changed as a person. They went through manhood and puberty in jail, essentially, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. Society will not give you a second chance, you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
regardless of what that person has learned and changed. Essentially, their life is over.
That's
Suicide
kind of what
rates,
we're talking about with
yeah,
what you're talking about, where we're already a little bit further ahead in terms of like this doesn't make sense, and yet we're living in a world where they're two steps back and they're going, well, sorry, like this is the way it is and you're fucked. Like
Mhm.
yeah,
we all know here that that's not fair, that that's not right, that people can heal, people can change, people can grow. What you do when you're 19 years old is very different from the person you are when you're 30, 27, 40. That's just
exactly,
obvious to us.
exactly. And like I was saying, the suicide rates of people that get out of jail is astonishingly high because people come out of jail with hopes and realize there is no help in hand. There's no turning back the clock. And let alone it doesn't matter if you can prove that you're a better person. People don't want to give you the chance even to prove it. And that's when the suicidal rates skyrocket. So it's a very sad reality when you look at it that way. That's why for me, I'm very big on the whole, not necessarily giving people second chances because that's a very broad term to give. You know what I mean? There's definitely examples where you wouldn't want to give someone a second chance, right? And that's more of a personal matter, right? But
Hmm.
to me, it's more about you can kind of look at it. What were the intentions of the person? what have they learned? What are they trying to do? Where are they now? Are they genuinely trying to be better, do better, be different? Age is also a very important factor. A guy in his early 20s or his early 19s, is going to be a vastly different person when they're 40. Different is if a guy gets caught doing something stupid at 45. I mean, that guy should just know better. He's almost almost 50. Life is kind of come and gone. You know what I mean? He should have learned a thing or two before that. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I hear you.
Man, must have been like being the target like that, especially going from someone that was so well regarded in that community to then just being completely lambasted by your peers. Mentally must have just drained you completely. It would for me. You might be more resilient than I am, but
well, I think for me in the beginning, it definitely I definitely was doing bad for a long time because it's kind of happened a long time ago. I think it's happened about 2.5 years ago. So it's been some years at this point, when everything came out and all that. And the way I see it is that in the beginning, I really struggled. Not gonna lie, went through some very, 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 very deep lows, right? And I'm not gonna pretend I didn't. But there was a point in the movie where I had this beautiful moment where I kind of realized to myself, I was like, wait, hold on a minute. This is all in my head. This is all in my head. I have the power, okay? I have the power to not only change where this can go. I can control this, but also I can control how what everyone else is saying and doing affects me, because I can't change what they're going to do or say, but I can change how I receive it. Once I learned that magical power, which by the way is like, it's like becoming a superhero overnight.
Yeah.
You kind of understand that you can detach yourself from this and you can become better. But there was a point in time where, if I read a comment online about this, I couldn't get on the internet, couldn't go outside. It was bad, right? Nowadays, I don't give a fuck. Why? Because to me, I realized that it doesn't have the value that I once gave it, because I give it value. And I understand, what does it come down to? These people feel I'm a certain type of person, but I'm not. And I know that. I don't have to prove that, but I know that, right? If it was bullshit, it would affect you more, because you can always get through the cracks of insecurity. You know what I mean? If you're faking, it can always kind of seep through, But when you're confident of yourself, when you're trying to improve yourself and you have improved yourself, when you gain confidence, when you can find strength and find joy in other things, and you can kind of develop more as a person, you find security, you find the ability to feel confidence again. And a guy who's confident can fucking do anything. So,
Well said. So what is your, what do you do with your wife? What are you doing besides boxing, and how is boxing? I don't know. I'm trying to say, how is boxing going? But then also, like, are you going to the movies? Are you watching the MCU? What do you, I guess maybe you don't have like maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like fucking zoned in on boxing.
well, I'm a very ambitious person, as we have established through this, right? So what I like about fighting, right, is that it's one of those things where if you asked me 10 years ago, would you ever be able to do a martial art or fight or something, I'd be like, no, right? No.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no. I will say no, just because I didn't think I could be that person. But then I
The
realized,
listeners don't know this, that you were like very obese, right? I mean, you were big.
Yes.
You were a big fellow.
yes, yeah.
Have you noticed like a change in confidence when you're just fucking hitting those bags and you're just in great shape? Do you feel like a better person? Do you feel happier?
So I think that physical and mental well-being, I think, are very interconnected. And the reason I say is because the way you portray yourself and the way you treat yourself is going to end up very similar to the way you feel mentally, right? So if you look like shit, chances are you're going to feel like shit. It's very simple, right? So if you're an overweight man pushing 400 pounds, surviving off pizza and soda, no exercise, no hobbies, I don't have to guess. I don't have to even think. I'm probably going to assume you are depressed, right? And here's one thing that I learned about depression, because I'm someone who's dealt with supposedly clinical depression is what they call it, right? Which I think is bullshit. Why do I think it's bullshit? Because I went through the ringer. I went through the ringer of antidepressants, pills, therapists, hospitals, whatever. None of them helped. Why? Because it comes to a point in the movie where you realize that depression, a lot of the time, is going to be a reaction to to you having a shitty life, to you doing something wrong. So the way I felt is that when I was going through the ringer and, going through the ringer of what I went through the last few years, I realized the reason I feel like shit about this is because it sucks. Because it sucks. Change it. Do something else. Be better. Okay. And as soon as when I invariably started doing more things, treating myself better, accomplishing more outside of this, I immediately, magically, overnight, healed from depression. Because when you talk to these people about depression, they'll tell you it's incurable. Well, you're gonna have to be on these pills for the rest of your life. Well, life can get better. Dude, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The answer is within your heart. The answer is within your the way you treat yourself. So, nowadays, because I'm still going through the journey and all that. I'm not finished quite yet, but I'm very close. Because to get fight ready and all that, you have to be pretty damn lean.
Ooh, can
But
we
I
talk
went,
about that?
yeah, yeah.
Bro, you're a fighter now. So, like, have you had to cut weight? I hear that you like dehydrate yourself. You go through all of these things, and congratulations on becoming a boxer. Like, I mean, it sounds like you love it. Like, you're just all in. What is that life like now?
I haven't had to cut weight like that for a fight, but I am invariably in a permanent cut just because I want to get to
Yeah.
an optimal range of body fat percentage. Because I'm trying to get under 10%, which is really hard for the vast majority of people on planet Earth to get
Yeah.
under 10% body fat. You have to be doing that on purpose. Because even if you are very lean, you can still be over 10% body fat. It's you're trying to maximize that ratio of muscle and fat, right? So I'm still on that journey myself. So I'm always invariably in a cut of some
Mhm.
shape or form. But for me, what I like about fighting is that it teaches you a lot about yourself, right? What I mean with that is that when you get hit by a punch in the face, all right, not a punch in the face, an accidental one, and not one from a regular schmo, but a guy that knows how to throw a punch, you get hit with a punch in your face. You will invariably know how you deal with conflict because if your first instinct is to run away or feel fear when you get hit, then you kind of know what you're made of. You understand your first reaction. But if your first instinct when you get hit is to try to hit him back, that will go to show how you react to most things in life. And that's kind of the person I am. I get hit in the face. Cool. Where can I hit you back in the face? That's the first thing I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking, does this hurt? Am I hurt? No, I don't think about any of that. I'm just thinking, how can I hit this person back? Right.
That's
And
going to
I think
make
that's
for a great, interesting fighter too.
yeah,
Someone's
yeah.
just ready to brawl.
Yeah, that's just the way I think, and also I think fighting is cool as in general because it's like a game in a way where there's been many times where they kind of have to explain me the concept of mix-ups, but with a real life layman terms. So it'll be like, yeah, so you're gonna kind of hit him a certain way on the right side, and then you kind of maybe look at his right shoulder, and then he'll drop his guard over here, So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is like kind of like a smash where you do this and you go for the grab. And okay, it's all the same. It's all the same little tomfoolery going around, but now in person, right? So that's been really cool to me. Obviously, it's a dangerous sport, and it's not for everybody. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that I've gone through everything, right? I mean, we could probably hold another one of these in a few years after after I have sustained some injuries for me, right? And then I can give you a different opinion of it, right? But right now,
Man,
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean?
hey man, I would love to have you on fucking 5 years from now. See where you're at in your
Yeah.
in your boxing journey. See where you're at with your marriage and kids. I mean, I that would be great for me.
What
Yeah,
was
I mean, like my goal is to keep improving as a fighter. Hopefully sometime next year I can get under one of these cards to fight somebody, right? You got to start humble, you pick up a fight that you can get and then go from there, right? And
Hmm.
I'm already preparing 6 days a week. I only take one day off a week. Which is not today. Today's not my day off, right?
Hmm.
Because the whole morning I just been working out, doing this, doing that. Tomorrow's my day off, right? But then
Wow.
after that, we go back to the grind. Yeah. So because for me, I want to actually get better in a short period of time. So you have to be able to put in the time. You're not gonna get good at something, doing it 2-3 times a week. You got to do it every day, essentially. This is the way it
Hmm.
works. So
Is there a place, this is going to work out for our viewers, but this is just actually a selfish request. Is there a place where I can keep up to date on what you're doing fighting wise? So, like, if you're about to fight or if you're going to do a fight diary or just to keep up with, like, what the heck you're up to?
well, I don't have that right now, and I'm kind of doing that on purpose because I'm just kind of
Hmm.
I kind of want to hit people with the transformation when it's ready. You know what I mean?
Could
Like,
you
you
hit
know,
me
just
up when that
of
transformation
course.
happens?
I
Awesome.
mean, you're my friend. You can just message me, bro. You can just, you can just message me, and I'll let you know. I'll send you pictures, whatever you want, But to the general public, I'm trying to, trying to hype it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Kind of come out
Hell
out of
yeah.
nowhere. Take a look at this. Because a lot of people's first reaction is gonna be, well, wasn't ZeRo a fat guy? What's he doing fighting? That's gonna be the first reaction, which I love because a lot of people don't realize that I'm a completely different person than I used to be. I mean, old ZeRo, if you ask him to run a mile, he'll, come on, run a mile. Come on, you can't do that. New ZeRo, I'm running 50 miles a week, for the heck of it, just to survive. You know what I mean? If you ask the old ZeRo, oh, can you go to the gym? He'll go there. But now I'm going to the gym 7 days a week. Invariably, I'm always at the gym, lifting the weight, hitting the bag, doing this, jump roping, whatever. There's always something going on, right? So it's a completely different environment, right? And I have purposely kind of not show myself too much just because I don't want people to kind of see the unfinished product. I want people to kind of because obviously people love drama. They love dramatic changes. They love dramatic responses. They love dramatic something. If you kind of show them step by step, they're kind of like, oh, okay, cool. But if you show them it kind of makes it a little bit more hype. So a little bit of marketing there.
And it's gonna happen.
What made you want to go from old ZeRo to new ZeRo? Like what snapped for you? Because it seems like it was pretty drastic quickly.
Well, for me, I just I realized I love competition more than I knew, because the reason I stopped playing Smash, because fun enough, the stuff that happened to me was after I stopped going to tournaments. It was actually years after I stopped going to tournaments. It didn't happen while I was in the middle of tournaments. It happened many years after. And I thought it was because I was sick of competition, but it wasn't that. I think the community just wore me down. It was unpleasant to keep going. I think some of the people I had to deal with regularly, the tournament organizers and whatnot, just the environment was not it for me. I don't think I click too well with the Smash Bros scene in general. And that's not a bad to them, a bad to me. I just think that just the way I develop as a person and the way I wanted to conduct myself, I just think I wasn't fitting at the lunch table a lot of the time. There's a reason why I didn't really click with a lot of the other influencers either. I clearly wasn't meant to be at the lunch table. That's fine. That's cool. But for me, when I kind of got out of it and I wanted to redesign myself, I just got sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. So I wanted to do something extreme. And I realized, well, I like competition. So what if I started fighting? And I kind of said, oh, maybe I start boxing, and I was like, well, I see all these other influencers fighting, and I'm like, well, if he can do it, what the fuck can I not? That's kind of how I started getting into it. And then I realized I was much more of a fighter than I really was, because for me, I just consider myself some guy who was good at playing Smash. Not even a good gamer, just a guy who was good at Smash. That's all I thought of. But then I realized you can actually grab skill sets and transport them to something else, because I'm picking up boxing really, really fast. And it's not like I'm an athlete. It's not like I was born an athlete. It's not like I have a background of athlete family or anything like that. But then I realized, wait a minute, the discipline I had for Smash and the way I trained, I can do this too. Because my coach talks about it to the other guys that train at the gym all the time. He's like, well, Gonzalo is on a strict fucking diet. Never breaks the diet. I mean, I don't have candy. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't break diet at any point in time. I measure every single fucking meal. Before this, I could tell you I ate exactly 150 grams of rice with 100 grams of broccoli. You know what I mean? Like, I could tell you off the top of my head because I measure it before this call, right? I did this at the gym, and I track I keep a diary to myself. Everything's very meticulously taken care of, so I can progress through the ranks. If I feel like shit, I'm still showing up to practice. If I'm tired, I still show up to practice. If I'm tired and the guy tells me, well, run 20 laps around the gym, I never complain. I just do it. I just do what he says, and they're not used to that. People complain. He tells me all the time, people want to do this shit. They complain. They quit. They don't want to do certain things. They do things, but then they kind of do them half-assedly. They're not really all into it. You just fucking do it. You don't ask. You hear the command and you go and perform the command. And that is so powerful, because if you let your coach just control you, you let him tell you what to do, and you fucking just do it exactly how he says. I mean, you could do crazy shit, right? So that's kind of how I realized, wait a minute, I have a superpower. I have the superpower of doing shit step to step and not breaking it. So I was like, I could probably find success within this, and I started finding success with other things and all. So that's to me, it was a combination of feeling sick and tired of being feeling sick and tired, and then realizing I can actually do more than I thought I could. So why not, right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
No, you set a really good example, I feel, to probably a lot of other gamers that were kind of similar to you, pardon my French, but, a fat gamer nerd, like transitioning from that to a physically fit, healthy boxer. I mean, have people been reaching out to you saying, hey, I'm doing this too, or...
Yeah, I mean, last night, for example, last night was the rare time where I play a video game, right? So I don't really play video games very often because I don't have a lot of time. Because when you're training 5 to 6 hours a day, you want to sleep 8 hours a day, and you have a wife, and then you have to do other business on the side. You realize the day kind of just runs short very often, right? You may have a few hours of precious time. Last night I had a little bit of time, so I downloaded the new Pokemon game. Okay, I'm playing it. I'm kind, it's been a long time since I played a game, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm like, hold up, Pokemon can be very fun, right? I'm kind of going along and all that. I made an Instagram post and I asked people, trade some Pokemon with me. And I had a lot of people reach out to me. I thought way more than I thought they would, because I was like, I don't know who's actively playing and trading right now. It was like 3 a.m, right? And many people that I talked to, the first thing they said, "Hey man, I'm actually so happy I get a chance to talk to you. Here's your Pokemon, and I started going to the gym because of you. I lost this amount of weight, or I started running, or I started doing this, or I started, and you realize that what a lot of people need, but specifically men, that they just need some type of role model that can show them that it can be done, because people get lost in their own rut, right? And they start to think that they can't do it until they see someone else do it, and then they're like, oh wait a minute, if he can do it, I can do it, right? And then you realize nothing is that special. It's just down to just do it, to just be willing to do it. For example, if when I started running, right, because the guy told me to start running, and I thought I couldn't run. I thought I had bad knees and bad ankles and this and that. I gave myself all the shitty excuses, right? And then I realized, hold on, I started running, and I'm like, okay, well, this kind of sucks. And then you run the next day, and you're like, well, this sucks. And you run the third day, and it sucks. And then you run the next week, and you're like, okay, yeah. You run 2 weeks later, okay. And then by month 3, you're fucking running, and to me, I was like, okay, I'm going progressively faster. I feel progressively better. I can recover faster. And then you start realizing, oh, this is not a superpower. The guy that you see on TV that can run like that, it's not like he was, sure, maybe he has some genetics that help him get to that point, right? But the reality is that the guy was fucking running every day. That's what it came down to. He was probably running every single day, right? And you could run every single day if you choose to do so, right? And I remember one of the things that surprised me is that I always thought I had shitty genetics, right? Because now that I started getting into the realm of physical sports, you hear this bounced around a lot in the gym, which is physical genetics, right? People like to call it talent, but for sports, it's basically the tools that you're born with, right? Some people are this and that, and I always thought I was kind of like the fragile type that wasn't really a fighter and this and that. So the coach had me do a scan. Well, not the coach. I had to do a scan for something else, and they kind of measure your bone density, your muscle density, and all that. Well, as it turns out, this is very random. I didn't even know about it. The guy told me, okay, so your bone density is apparently extremely gifted. You're like on the 1% of humans or something like that, and because of how dense your bones are. So this is why it's extremely unlikely you'll ever suffer any type of injuries ever in your bones. And I was like, okay, well, I thought it was a pussy. You know what I mean? Like I thought I had shitty ass bones, because my memory was, well, I remember I ran 1 mile when I was 340 pounds, and it felt like shit, and my knees felt like they were bursting. Well, I probably have shitty ass genetics, That's what you're thinking, right? That's what you're thinking. But then you don't realize, oh no, it's because you were a fat fuck. That's why you were struggling, bro. That's why you were struggling. So it makes sense, The whole point is that you never know what tools you have. So don't worry about the tools that you have. It doesn't fucking matter. Just do what you can with what you have, and then you'll probably get better results than you have in your own head.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what you do. I think it's going to be like a Logan Paul kind of story where someone's like, oh, who the fuck's Logan Paul? And then he comes out and is knocking people's asses out. I'm pretty convinced that you're just going to start knocking people out once people catch wind of what you're doing. So,
well, as you already know, with everything I do, I am ambitious. So I want to beat every single one of these guys. And I know for a fact that all it takes is one fight. I just know that it takes one fight for me to beat one guy, and then this other guy is gonna say, that guy's not good. I can beat him. All right, let's go.
Uh.
You know, and then I beat two, and then that's kind of how you start.
The
It
domino
always starts with
effect.
one.
Yeah.
It always starts with one. You don't have to defeat the whole mountain all at once. So long you make the first primordial step. You know what I mean? And the way I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna do it with everything I got. I mean, I'm gonna do this shit every day. I'm gonna run every day. I'm gonna, I'll show up prepared. If I lose, then I know that I try my best. You know what I mean? But I'm never gonna show up to fight day, being lazy. Yeah, that's not something I did for tournaments ever in like the however decade I played competitively, and it is definitely not gonna happen for this. But hell no. So.
Nice.
Amazing.
Well, I think that this is a good time to end it. Do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, where can people follow you?
Well, these days, I think the places I'm most active is probably Instagram. So that's going to be ZeRo Wondering, ZeRo Wondering, as if you were wondering a question. On YouTube, I still post. You can find me on just ZeRo, or you can just go to youtube.com/Chile, like the country zero. Or I think it even pops up as ZeRo Wondering as well, like /ZeRo Wondering. And then I'm also on TikTok too. Even though I
Nice.
find for me TikTok is one of those is the ringer of platforms. You know what I mean? But you got to play the game.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's also gonna be ZeRo Wondering. So
I had one last question. I remember I always wanted to ask you. Your
yeah, go for
name
it.
is ZeRo, as if you're like fucking nothing, and yet you're the best. Have you ever thought about that? Like you named your name like ZeRo.
Well, for me, I think it has a different connotation because in English, zero is the equivalent of nothing, right? The lack of almost, right? Whereas in Spanish, it's not the same way we say zero. So to me, it's more like a word versus a meaning, right? So
Mm.
to me, it just sounds like a cool word a lot of the time. Versus
Mm.
probably to you guys, it sounds more like a term being thrown around. So I think that kind of helps. Why for me it's easier to use that name because I mean, if you were to choose a gamer tag, it just wouldn't sound good a lot of the time because people be like, oh, I don't want to be nothing, I want to be like Dark Lord 44,000, the strongest, or some bullshit like that, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
but to me, it was just like, I'm a Spanish guy, oh, the word zero, oh, that looks cool, that sounds cool. That's also why it's capitalized R within the name because I remember I was online, I was playing this MMO. I don't know if you guys ever played Ragnarok online. It was like this weeby anime
Yeah,
MMO.
dude. Oh, it was so fucking good.
Yeah, it was kind
Ragnarok.
of like, yeah, I wasted so much time in that bullshit. But the point is that I remember there was a server where all the tryhards kind of gather around, and I was a tryhard in that game, so I was in one of the top guilds, whatever. And there was this one random guy comes in crashing with all the best gear. Guy probably was 400 pounds IRL. I know it. Doesn't matter. The guy had the best gear. So to us, he was the man. He was the man. He had everything. He had everything maxed out. All of the money. The best character. His name was fucking ZeRo. It was ZeRo with the capital R. That was the ZeRo. That was the original ZeRo. Okay. So in my head, I'm like, oh
Wow.
my god, that guy is like G. That guy is he's everything. He's the actual G in game. So I started copying because I was like, what, 10, 11, right? So it's not like I'm very impressionable, right? So I started using the name when I was playing Smash with my friends. They'd be like, why the fuck are you using ZeRo? That's such a stupid name. And then they started making fun of me for it. And I doubled down because they made fun of me for it. So I had to choose the name because I'm not gonna be made fun of and then back out. You can't do that. So you have to double down with the stupid name. So I did, and I stuck with it. And then everybody started calling me that. And then my mom started calling me that because to her it sounded hilarious. And then it stuck so bad. It's like even if I wanted to change name, it just wasn't possible anymore. So that's kind of how it happened.
A
Interesting.
wonderful story.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Way to end it.
Shout outs to the ZeRo guy and Ragnarok.
He's out there.
I don't know where
He doesn't even know.
he's out there. He's out there somewhere. Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's ever watched any of these videos. I don't think so. I probably not. He's probably some old guy, honestly.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you,
Well,
ZeRo.
thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, I mean, you threw the invite. I was like, why not? Let's go.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
So before you leave the session, let's